Hello everyone, welcome back to GGN. This is part 3 for this news report today. It should be the last one for Thursday, December 27th, 2012. Alright, I'm going to continue here. We're kind of going into eugenics. We're kind of leaving the economy part. And just what we went over last video, we left off with more homeless young adults living under bridges and stuff like that. Hunger and homelessness rise dramatically in the U.S. You have the United States Postal Service workers are going on a 6-day hunger strike, and then followed by the images of starving Africans putting off people giving money to continents. So people are getting turned off by this. This Band-Aid image, counterproductive. British public is desensitized to images of hunger, drought, and disease. Only 1 in 5 believe they can play an active role in ending hunger. And it says here that advertising portrayals branded depressing, manipulative, and hopeless. It says the ad agency said the public must shake off the portrayals of Africa promoted by the celebrity-driven campaigns of the 80s and 2004. They stressed that the majority of people have become desensitized to the images depicting such of these difficult issues. And remember, we're just talking about how the U.S. is sending military Army, actually 35 countries they're sending Army units to. The West abandoned Africa and manipulates it, they say, as the Central African Republic is rolling into unrest with rebel forces advancing on its capital. Africa expert says that the West has abandoned the continent and isn't interested only in its resources. So it's pretty interesting. We're talking about the Central African Republic calling on its former colonial ruler, France, to intervene to stop the possible overthrow of the government there. So again, this is going to your oppressor to ask for resolution. It says angry protesters threw stones at the French embassy and tore down the French flag, criticizing the former colonizer for failing to do more to stop the rebels. Then we have Americans living longer but also living sicker. So one of the things that I noticed in here was they were talking about these people back in the 80s and stuff like that. And of course, you notice Sting, George Michael. That's Bob Geldof, I think his name is. Bob Geldof. Feed the world. And if you ask him how he's going to do that, he talks about reducing the population and stuff like that. So basically, you can say that he's a negative eugenicist. He believes in radical population reductions. I think we've seen on a video before. And they like to exploit, right? And like they're manipulating, exploiting these people for their resources. But you have what? Americans living longer but also living sicker. So it says we're increasingly living with chronic illnesses such as obesity, diabetes, high blood pressure, thanks to the wonders. Ooh, progress. See, there's progress like the iPhone, thanks to the wonders of modern medicine, which happens to be a huge complex that makes a lot of money. Again, exploits and manipulates you. You know, it's not bad. It's not bad enough that you're a debt slave. Just in general, your bad health and you're wanting to stay alive and having to stay alive to work until you're dead to afford the eugenics care. That's what's so crazy about it. You work your entire life basically slaving away to afford all of the debt that you accrued for health reasons, for bad health. Then you have to go back to the hospitals and to the medical establishment. As you know, basically you keep working yourself to death. You got to go back so that you can keep working so you can pay off your debt. So it's a real vicious cycle. They make a lot of money, especially in the cancer industry. Most of you already know that. So I don't really agree with most people. You know, everybody living longer though. Man given 5% chance of becoming a father after battling testicular cancer twice celebrates his son's first Christmas. So it says here he lost a testicle and had several grueling rounds of chemotherapy after being diagnosed. He had a 5% chance of basically pulling through. But it says here, but just after a week before starting in vitro fertilization, realized that they had conceived naturally. So, you know, it's a happy story and stuff like that, a happy ending. You know, they like this article because it promotes reproduction in a lab, and you know, basically that you have to go to the pharma complexes for all the chemo and the meds and the surgery and stuff like that. And of course, this is the new norm too. That's the thing. Cancer patients who struggle to pay their energy bills. Thousands are behind, with 1 in 4 owing more than 200 pounds As much as 2.8 million is owed by sufferers to heating companies in the UK. It says 30% said they have to turn off their heat in the last 3 months. It says, according to the cancer support, a third wore outdoor clothing inside. Well, I do that. Also, a YouGov poll of cancer patients in the UK found over half, 54% of those diagnosed within the last 2 years, are worried about the cost of heating their homes this winter. So this is the same country where they got the death pathway, and where they're trying to cut costs and basically euthanize these people, just allow them to die, refuse them care and stuff like that for savings. Or they've actually calculated the number, so they've taken the time to do that. Around 27,000 excess winter deaths are expected this year, including avoidable fatalities among older people, says the charity Age UK is doing this number. They got the math, with living in a cold home being a major factor in 2 out of 5 extra winter deaths. And down to negative 50 degrees Celsius, Russians freeze to death as strongest in decades winter hits. So a little disclaimer for you: this doesn't prove that climate change doesn't exist. So there you go. Russia is enduring its harshest winter in over 70 years, with temperatures plunging as low as negative 50 degrees Celsius. Dozens of people have already died, and almost 150 have been hospitalized. Says the country has not witnessed such a long cold spell since 1938. In total, 542 people were injured due to freezing temperatures. Next up, severe cold spell kills 123 people in Russia. So 123 people after temperatures drastically dropped in different parts of the country. Mortalities from cold spell in Ukraine have risen to 61. So the freezing winter's taken the lives of 24 more people, pushing the overall death toll to 61 in December after temperatures fall below the minus 23 degrees Celsius range. So government minister says well-off pensioners should donate winter fuel allowances to charities. So I've already mentioned this before about how they refer to them as pensioners, the retirees. They're people, they're human beings, and they slaved away for a decent amount of time in that short period of time where you can work and you might be able to retire. I'm personally witnessing the end of that, just watching my own family, my mother in particular, leaving the teaching industry. And she's barely getting out of there with her pension, and it's in Illinois, so good luck. You know what I mean? If God only knows what's going to happen with that in the future. But she says how the people are just totally jealous of her, the other workers, and they just say, "I can't take this anymore." You know what I mean? Looked at one Adrian Brody movie about the teacher and stuff like that. So Charities Minister Nick Hurd says he would welcome decisions by pensioners to give money away. So when I talk about solutions, I'm sure many of you know what I'm hinting at, which is a stateless society, one without a government. And I know that's probably not going to be reality in my life. In fact, I know it isn't. And I'm still pretty hopeful about the distant future. I believe in reincarnation. I don't really care what people think. But I would imagine that I might see it maybe about 1,000 lifetimes from now, billions of years from now, maybe. That's how far off I think it is from actually happening, because I just think that there's just so much programming, hard-coded, hardwired into people, into souls themselves, into having that victim mentality. That they're just going to constantly be enslaved. I mean, you got to have that fire inside. You got to have that passion, man. To really just see through the crap, as Alan Watt puts it, cutting through the matrix and that. But this is a good sign, right? It's about volunteerism, not coercion. Newtown officials ask gift givers to stop sending packages. This is what would happen in this type of society. We're not being coerced. People would help each other. They always do it, even now. So the officials, the authorities, the important people, the cops and the firemen and all them, are asking people to stop sending gifts to the grief-stricken community following the deadly school shooting, saying they are deeply grateful but can't handle the donation deluge. So and of course the cops, and the authorities and all that, they could actually, instead of wasting all that money on tax dollar money, they could actually hire some work, put some people to work, create some temporary jobs, and get people to box this stuff and ship it out to charities around the country, around the state. But no, see, they don't want to do that. They just want to tell you to stop helping. right? Because you're supposed to have that victim mentality like they do, and the firemen, like I just talked about, and go to them for help, thus perpetuating the victim mentality. So it's kind of like during Hurricane Sandy, what happened? You had those telecom technicians that came all the way up from the south, like Alabama or Georgia, to volunteer their time and their skills. And what do? They got turned around. They said, no, you can't help us. We got to help these unions, or the unions got to do it and stuff like that. They had appointed work. So FEMA stops people from sending donated supplies to victims of Hurricane Sandy from November 14th. So that before, this was for the shooting, what we just covered. Now this is actually for the victims of the engineered weather modification storm. It's all the televised published pictures plus personal appeals from Hurricane Sandy victims in New York and New Jersey touched the hearts of the Shelter Islanders, who generously filled truckloads of clothing and other goods bound for Island Park in Long Beach last week. This is from November, remind you. But the word from the Federal Emergency, or FEMA, now is stop, right? Because they do such a successful job. They say here, it's not that the victims of Sandy have their needs met, but that FEMA has strict rules what can and cannot be accepted. Cash is the most efficient method of donating, says the FEMA website. It's kind of like George Bush said during their hurricane in Haiti, right? Just send us your cash. And we know that and most of those big charitable organizations, Red Cross and all of them, they end up scamming the people, and like if it's lucky, like 1% of the stuff, the donations actually go to the people. So we might do 4 videos today. I'm not really sure, but I'm not going to speed through this one. The new MRSA superbug strain found in UK milk supply, 80% were reserved for livestock and poultry, says in fact, according to the new data just released by the FDA, of the antibiotics sold in 2009 for both people and food animals, almost 80% were reserved for livestock and poultry. A huge portion of those antibiotics were never intended to fight bacterial infections. Rather, producers most likely administered them in continuous low dosages through feed or water to increase the speed at which their animals grew. So this is what you get when you don't have things grown locally and you have these big complexes, beef industries, and food suppliers that are in a few hands now. They got to do things very fast. They have factory farms, they call it. Pump them up full of growth hormones. They grow fast, get them out, and because they're all smashed together, you got to load them up with all these antibiotics. A new strain of MRSA has been found in British milk, indicating that the superbug is spreading to the livestock population and poses a growing threat to human health. If I remember correctly, I actually did a story about this in college, and they were the health director was saying, she was downplaying the whole MRSA threat, saying that the news was sensationalizing it, saying that MRSA is actually something that is on people, inside people, and when they get cut, basically they can get it. Call it a staph infection. But I remember back then, that was in 2008, I started to see what was going on. I interviewed, went over to the agricultural department and stuff like that, and people that were into farming and horticulture and all that. And I found that, with all this stuff, all the antibiotics and growth hormones, mostly the antibiotics that were in the food, people were being less able to, their bodies were being less able to fight any kind of infection naturally because they're so full of them. Plus, you have all the antibiotics that people get from their doctors when they go there. I've seen people from personal experience, they're always sick, and they keep talking about how they keep taking these antibiotics, and they never get better. But again, it's like, why would you even want to drink this milk to begin with? Just, if you can, try to drink pasteurized milk. But, I'm about to move, but I live in an Amish town, and I can't even find pasteurized milk. I have to see Amish go to the store and buy that crap milk with dead bacteria in there, all the blood and pus that goes back into the milk from when they do the mass milking of these cows. Plus you have the growth hormones, you have the antibiotics, all kinds of other stuff. McDonald's is serving up restructured meat technology. So now McDonald's is rolling out their McRib sandwiches, which is actually disgusting. I actually tried it. I remember it was 3 years ago because I saw Homer eating them in The Simpsons, which I don't really watch that much, but I tried it, and it was absolutely disgusting. I'm like, what is the big deal about these damn things? Tens of millions of Americans will purchase one, or, judging by the nation's ever-widening beltline, several, but most will do so without knowing all they should know about this popular sandwich. It's a sandwich built from scratch. So I'm just going to stop here, and you can join me in part 4, and we'll finish up all the articles I have stacked up, that I've had stacked up these past week here. This is GGN. I'm Darko. Thank you.